The movie begins with an old man trying to liberate two young women from the clutches of a devilish soul, while a man named William is seen standing near the old man to protect him. Moments later, a knight storms into the cottage and stifles the process by slicing old man's belly with his sharp sword. Just then, William comes and falls on the knight. The knight says to William, "Once I am done with you, I am going to kill your wife because your wife is nothing but a witch." Upon hearing this, William gets furious and lunges at the knight and knocks him out, using the sword handle. In the cottage, the old man is dying, while the two young women are still on their knees. William storms into the cottage and finds a page near the dead body of the old man and discovers the page with some cryptic signs on it. And afterward, he begins to collect the pages lying near the deceased old man. Then, he approaches his wife Twyla and makes her drink a potion, and then, he embraces her. Shortly afterward, everything becomes normal around them, with the disappearance of other young women. They come out of the cottage and burn the devilish book from which a fiery entity emerges. Now, the story flashes back 4 nights ago. In 1575, in a small town named Dawnbrook in England, a man named William says in the background narration, "This is the last message, I will leave for you, William. Time is against me but not for you." After which, he spots a young woman in the scary night, holding decapitated heads in both of her hands. He tries to stop the possessed woman, but in the meantime, another woman named Ida accidentally arrives there and begins to scream at the sight of the supposed witch. Subsequently, Twyla wakes up, meaning she was having a nightmare. The next day, outside their decrepit cottage, William, a blacksmith, is seen beating the iron to cast it into horseshoes. Christopher informs William that the screaming woke up the entire town last night. After obtaining the horseshoes, Christopher leaves. Twyla comes out of the cottage and William reveals to her that a girl in the town murdered her parents last night, having been awakened by the screams. Then, Twyla also reveals that she also woke up last night after hearing someone screaming. Now, the scene shifts to Judge Hopkins, who is taking a close look at Johanna Fletcher, who murdered her parents under the influence of a witch. In a while, Sheriff Crawford arrives at the prison cell. He asks the judge if this is the same girl who wiped out her own family. The judge responds yes. Judge Hopkins says that our Dawnbrook is a town rife with sin and I am determined to cleanse it. Sheriff and the judge come out, where Judge Hopkins states that the people used to call this town the Devil's Door, as the people here knew only wickedness and ungodliness. I purged this town of witches and brought order to the chaos. Next, the sheriff comes to Ida, who informs the sheriff that she heard a scream last night, and when she went out to investigate it, that's when she saw Johanna Fletcher, holding the decapitated heads of her parents in both of her hands. Apart from this, Ida reveals that there was a man, and he had a big hooded coat on and he was holding his hand out to her like that. At the same time in the market, Twyla comes to a greengrocer. The old man also arrives there and says to Twyla, "I have put your life in grave danger. Tomorrow, there will be a trial. The girl Johanna will be convicted of the murder of her parents." He asks Twyla if she believes in the devil. Upon hearing this, Twyla gets scared and begins to leave, but she is forcibly stopped by the old man. The old man says that before the trial is over, Johanna will declare you a witch, that will lead to the arrest of you and your husband, but after the trial is over you will be convicted and later, you will be hanged. Twyla is not convinced of what the old man tells her. Therefore, she pushes him and leaves. One of the townsmen eavesdrops on their discourse. He goes straight to the sheriff and informs him that he heard an old man accuse the blacksmith's wife of witchcraft. Afterward, the sheriff heads to the prison cell, inside which Johanna is imprisoned. The sheriff says that he was informed by a man that Twyla Smith is accountable for all this. At this, she shakes her head and says, "It's Annabelle." Twyla heads straight to her house after her encounter with the old man. She tells William that she met an old man in the market who told her there would be a trial tomorrow for Johanna, as she is supposed to be a witch. He said, "Johanna will accuse you of witchcraft in front of the entire town." However, William doesn't believe her words and comforts her by embracing her. William takes her to a local bar to lighten her mind, but Twyla discovers that man again in the bar. She immediately diverts William's attention to the man. William goes quickly, but finds no one around. The old man sneaks around William's house and steals some keys to the prison cells. Nonetheless, he accidentally drops one of the keys, while leaving in a hurry. In the cell, Twyla walks into the cell and sits down before Johanna. Just then, a shadowy entity emerges behind Twyla, and afterward, Twyla wakes up. Meaning, she was having a nightmare again. The following day, the trial commences, where Judge Hopkins presides from the bench, while the courtroom is filled with townspeople, eager to hear the verdict. Johanna Fletcher is brought in by a guard before the judge. Judge Hopkins says to Johanna, "You are charged with the murder of your parents. Hence, do you have anything to say in defense of these allegations?" Johanna responds that she doesn't want to die. Afterward, Judge Hopkins orders Ida to come forward to shed light on the occurrence. Ida says that she was awakened by a loud scream, causing her to step outside to see what the uproar was. "That's when I saw Johanna with the ripped-off heads of her parents." On the other side, Sheriff Crawford with Thomas comes to Twyla and forcibly takes her to the trial. At the trial, Judge Hopkins asks the jury to give its verdict on Johanna Fletcher's case. This jury consists of William, a blacksmith and gastro, and innkeeper. The jury also declares Johanna guilty of the heinous murder of her parents. After that, Judge Hopkins bestows upon her the sentence of death. Shortly after, the sheriff arrives at the trial, taking Twyla as a culprit. Upon the arrival of Twyla, Johanna begins to sing a song and says, "Mother says there is always time for games." At this, the judge says that you have brutally killed your mother. Then, Johanna answers that her mother is still alive and she is around her at this time. Judge Hopkins asks her who her mother is. Then, Johanna points her finger at Twyla and addresses her as her real mother. In the nick of time, William gets up to defend her wife and says Twyla has nothing to do with this. Sheriff Crawford seems to be mistaken. Judge Hopkins asks Twyla if she has anything to say in her defense. At this, she says that she has no idea why Johanna is calling her mother. William says that Twyla is too young to have a child like Johanna. Moments later, Twyla is captured by Thomas and William is also taken down by the sheriff. At the same time, Johanna is on cloud 9. Both William and Twyla are imprisoned. And they find a foggy entity roaming in the corridor of the prison. Twyla starts bleeding from the nose. The hooded old man appears from above and asks William to get Twyla out of the prison as quickly as possible. Hence, the hooded man drops the keys near William's cell to free himself. William manages to get to the keys and unlocks his cell. Outside the prison, the old man tries to distract the guards. In the meantime, William frees Twyla. The guards drive away the old man. One of the drunk guards goes into the prison and bumps into William and Twyla, but he could not identify them because of being intoxicated and moves on. William and Twyla get out and find the old man standing before them. The old man states that they need to get out of the town and find a shelter. Soon, they caught Thomas's eye. The old man, William and Twyla run into the forest to save themselves from getting caught. Thomas also pursues them to the forest. In the prison, Sheriff Crawford is informed about the escape of William and Twyla into the forest. Judge Hopkins orders the sheriff to go back into the woods and bring the couple back to the prison. In the woods, Twyla encounters the misty entity, standing behind a tree. In a while, William comes and takes her away. The old man demonstrates some kind of witchcraft to William and Twyla, and seeing which, the couple gets at their wits' end. He shows a book and reveals that the words in this book are a calling to the gatekeeper of the underworld. A corner of existence, where all the souls end up, and this is the key, and with this very key, one would be able to clear the vast ocean of the lost souls within. The old man says that 36 years ago, he sat exactly where you are sitting right now. The old man asks the couple if they want to know how they get involved in all of this. Here, the old man drops a bombshell on William and says, "I am no other than you." The present-day William begins to scoff upon hearing this, as he takes it with a grain of salt, but later, he believes what the William of the past says. Old William says that all of this has happened before. My daughter Annabelle completed our family. I kept the book safe, hidden for years just to keep my family safe. The years passed, and we grew older, and my Twyla fell sick, but Annabelle was not willing to let her mother die. The desperate Annabelle looked to the book for help. She tried to revive Twyla. Instead, she brought something very evil through the door. A parasite attaching itself to Annabelle's soul, causing her body to perish, leaving no trace of her body. Meaning, the blurry entity, whom the present-day Twyla has been encountering, is no other than Annabelle, the damned daughter of old William and Twyla. In the present, old William reveals that the demon has bound itself to her daughter and it is trying to reconnect with Annabelle again. At this, present-day Twyla says Annabelle is dead. Then, old William says that a part of Annabelle died, but a part of her still exists. It's using girls like Johanna to draw you out, as it wants the child within you, driven by Annabelle's desire to return to her physical body. But to stifle all this, we must use the same runes that Annabelle used to save my Twyla and banish the demon back from where it came. The next morning, old William and present-day William and Twyla hear the footfalls of the guards, searching for them. Therefore, they all leave. Next, old William sneaks into the prison to free Johanna. With the help of the book, he tries to melt the prison bars, but meanwhile, the sheriff starts making his way to the prison, causing the old William to retreat. In the woods, the present-day William and Twyla are sitting under a tree, but soon, they hear the guards heading towards them. William leaves Twyla behind a tree and goes to find those guards himself. Shortly after, Twyla is captured by Thomas, but soon afterward, William takes Thomas hostage, freeing Twyla from his captivity. In the market, Rose, the daughter of Judge Hopkins, arrives at a stall run by old William. He takes out some dolls from his bag, belonging to his own daughter Annabelle, and hands them to Rose, saying it is yours from now on. Rose happily takes those dolls and leaves. Old William also starts leaving, but is caught by the guards. In the woods, present-day William has bound Thomas's hands together and waits for old William, but it gets dark while continuously waiting for him. Present-day William smells a rat and says old William must be back now. Something wrong happened to him. Twyla begins to bleed again, and seizing the opportunity, Thomas escapes from there. William also goes after him to capture him, leaving Twyla behind. After a while, Twyla senses someone's presence around her, causing her to search for the unknown identity. Shortly after, she finds a little girl playing around in the forest so late at night. Twyla approaches the girl, who reveals to be Annabelle. It gets day, and Twyla is still busy playing hide-and-seek with Annabelle. On the other side, present-day William succeeds in capturing the absconder Thomas, and afterward, he kills him by plunging the sword through his stomach. In the town, the people of the town gather to witness the hanging of Johanna. Sheriff Crawford leads Johanna to the scaffold and then puts a noose around her neck to hang her. Rose is seen playing with Annabelle's dolls. As soon as she leaves the table, the damned soul of Annabelle is seen in the window pane. Outside, Sheriff Crawford takes the old William to the scaffold too at the behest of Judge Hopkins. The sheriff hangs Johanna to death before the townspeople. Moments later, the sheriff goes to behead the old William, but in the meantime, the present-day William throws a phial of a magical elixir among the crowd, causing the townspeople to feel irritation in their eyes. Making the most of the opportunity, present-day William manages to safely steal the old William from under the nose of the sheriff and the judge. Judge Hopkins threateningly commands the sheriff and the guard to bring the old William before sunrise or I will execute you next. At Rose's house, the damned soul of Annabelle goes into her body through the nostrils. Elsewhere in the woods, Twyla is still playing hide-and-seek with Annabelle. In the room, Judge Hopkins senses an evil presence, while looking over the devilish book. At the same time, his own daughter Rose has also made her way to the room. However, she is under the influence of Annabelle at this time. Moments later, we witness the horrifying sight of the possessed Rose, holding her father's severed head, screaming in a chilling display of madness. William tries to lead her to the cottage, made in the woods. The possessed Rose enters the ramshackle cottage and kneels down. Old William retrieves the book from present-day William. Moments later, Twyla also gets into the cottage and discovers Rose, playing with Annabelle's dolls. She also kneels down, opposite to Rose, and picks up one of the dolls. The devilish soul of Annabelle also comes around her. Soon after, old and present-day William rush into the cottage, seeing whom, both the women begin to scream, and this is the very scene which we saw in the beginning of the movie. The old William starts sending the damned soul of Annabelle into the dark world, whence it came. Meanwhile, the sheriff shows up and wounds William, stifling the process. The present-day William pounces upon the sheriff and takes him out of the cottage. Old William is lying on the floor wounded. After getting rid of the sheriff, William storms into the cottage and finds old William dead. He hurriedly begins to collect the pages of the book. Later, he drinks some drops of elixir and makes Twyla drink it too. After which, he embraces her. After a while, everything becomes normal inside the cottage, while Rose disappears. William burns the book to let it happen again in the future, but the ablaze page had some kind of message from the old William to present-day William, and that message was don't save her. However, present-day William could not notice it and leaves. 36 years later, we see the present-day William, who has now grown old, leaving a message for the future William, indicating that this cycle is still on in the town, and with this cliffhanger, this movie comes to an end.